Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of VNture Podcast, brought to you by your hosts Taros and MR. This week, we have ourselves another honored guest, a YouTube content creator by the name of Bored Ronin, or Ronin for short. Thank you very much for appearing on the show, Ronin.
Thanks for having me. I'm Ronin. I make videos sometimes about visual novels, and sometimes about RPG Maker games and other kinds of video games.
Speaking on videos you make, it's a pleasure to have you, because one time I've been binging and looking on YouTube for potential guests, and I stumbled upon one of your runs videos. And what struck me is you bring a different perspective from majority of the runs videos. Instead of chronicling your adventure with the series, you instead have a retrospective approach. And I felt like that's actually refreshing. So that led me down the board running path. I immediately subscribed because no person liking runs can be a bad guy, right? So I immediately knew, I need to have that person on my podcast. I need to know how he thinks. So tell us, what made you read visual novels?
Oh, thank you. I guess I started reading visual novels when I stumbled across Fruit of Grisai on Steam one day. I don't know how I stumbled across that. I was just looking for games to play, and it caught my interest. I thought it was just like a normal high school dating sim game, and I was wrong about that. I wasn't expecting so much emotional damage. But yeah, it was a really good game. Yeah. And after that, started reading more.
It's always interesting to hear that dating sim visual novel overlap and confusion in a lot of newcomers to the genre. And there are many visual novel fans who, take offense to that because honestly, they are two separate things and it's important to make those distinctions. But for a lot of people looking to dip their toes into visual novels, like you got into this medium by just diving into the Fruit of Grisaya by not really knowing what it was about. And would you have been as eager to start it off if you had known that it was primarily reading? That this thing that, you were looking for a game to play, you would mostly be reading, a sort of book instead?
I'm actually not sure, because at the time I was looking for a game where you can date anime girls, but I didn't. But if I knew the story was as good, I probably would have tried it. But I'm glad I did try it though. It's a good game.
Interesting. So once you finished it, did you realize that this was something called a visual novel? And then, did you branch out to a few other titles?
Yeah, after that I started reading more stuff. I think after that I read Fate Stay Night and Tsukihime.
Ooh, nice. You were diving headfirst in some classics.
Yeah, unfortunately, I already saw the anime for Fate and Tsukihime beforehand. I think that wish I read it without seeing the animes for those, not knowing what would happen.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so enough can be said about. I'm assuming this was the Studio Dean anime for Fate Stay Night.
Yeah, I saw that and the Unlimited Blade Works one by Affordable beforehand.
Oh, you saw both of them beforehand?
Yeah, it's before I really got into reading visual novels, and I just mostly watched anime.
Ah, interesting. Okay. When did you get into anime?
Well, I've been watching anime since I was very young, 3 years old. I remember watching Dragon Ball as a kid a lot, and Yu-Gi-Oh! I guess I didn't get seriously into it until I was 14. I watched Death Note, and then I got I watched lots of stuff after that. I just couldn't stop watching anime.
Oh, that's classic. Yeah, same here. I remember my Saturday morning cartoons watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And following along every week. and, a whole bunch of people at their middle school phase and watching Death Note, and that, led them into the whole bigger wide world of anime.
Yeah, Death Note's one of those gate entryway kind of level anime that gets you want to watch more.
Mm-hmm. But I guess most importantly, how did this all tie into you becoming a YouTube content creator?
I've been wanting to kind of make videos since I was middle school. Like when I was watching like Angry Video Game Nerd and Let's Plays at the time, I thought, oh, I wish I could make stuff like this. And like a few years ago, I kind of realized like I'm an adult with a job now. I can just like buy a microphone and do it. So like I did it. I made a video about rants, which was my fixation at the time. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about.
And making a video, I'm sure, as you've discovered, is quite hard. And when you started off of just going, well, I'll buy a microphone and I'll just speak into it and then I'll post it on YouTube, you realized how much video editing there was, right?
Yeah, you don't really know about how difficult editing is until you actually do it. It's very time consuming and can be tedious. It's not exactly fun, but you can find some fun editing to do sometimes.
Because your videos are pretty well animated. They're very clean, very sharp transitions. Did you teach yourself how to do it by just looking up guides online?
Yeah, basically, I'm just look up stuff what I don't know. I use what is it? Yeah, I use Adobe to edit my videos, and it's pretty simple most of the time. But I definitely got better as I made more videos and discovered new things.
Hey, impressive! Congrats, man.
Yeah, I really like it, how clean the editing is. But I do have a question. Do you feel the creative process you making videos is fulfilling? Because based on those videos you crafted, and Sonia Nil comes to mind, your newest one, I feel you have a creative side to you. One line that stuck out to me to be very beautiful, you were talking about the Lily character, and you call her a black canvas, colored by the people surrounding her. I'm like, wow, that's a powerful line.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do enjoy writing a bit, so I guess that reflects in the videos I make. I mean, it's hard to make, but I do feel as it's a fulfilling thing to do. I do feel very satisfied when I finish a video and have it out there and to see what other people think about it.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of moments speak passionately about you, and I was very impressed. The other one that comes to my mind, again from the Sonia Nil video, you speak like nonchalantly about, there is something called Kada, and then you move on. I'm like, I am sitting in my chair, gripping. He said the word. He will mention Cthulhu mythos. He will do it. He will do it. And you did. And you did. You did not disappoint.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's fun when I get to talk about like Cthulhu and Lovecraft stuff, which comes up a lot actually in the stuff I play and read.
Same here, big Lovecraft fan, and it's always fun when you're reading a title and you weren't expecting it, and suddenly there's some big plot twists and whatnot, and you're like, oh, hey, I know what they're doing.
Yeah, they really Japanese stories really do love referencing Lovecraft and having like their monsters as anime girls and stuff. It's funny.
True.
Mhm.
True.
What is your favorite visual novel, Ronin?
That's DSRI easily. I really love that game. Definitely one I think about the most, and I listen to the OST all the time. It has probably my favorite cast, favorite music. Does everything perfectly, I think.
Because it's just so over the top, right?
Yeah, it's the most chuny visual novel ever. I don't think there's even Fate Stay Night's not quite as crazy over the top chuny as DSRI.
Impressive. And if you had to pick a title as your least favorite visual novel, what would it be?
I'm not sure. I don't really like reading bad visual novels, but
Oh, you're
recent one
smart.
that
You're
comes.
smarter than me then.
I mean, a recent one I didn't enjoy recently was actually My Dear Moments, which I didn't really like very much, unfortunately.
Oh no.
Okay.
I've heard
In
of.
that case,
Yeah, you go.
I mean, if you don't like to dwell on the titles you didn't like, or rather you don't remember them, because I sympathize. I'm the same. Whenever I read a VN that didn't quite hit, I just tend not to dwell on it. Okay, I'll move on, find something next. Hopefully, I'll enjoy it more. Tell me maybe what was the most surprising for you then.
Most surprising visual novel? Yeah, probably Mega Bates. Like I knew it
Ooh.
was like a Guro game going into it, so I wasn't expecting much. And especially after getting the first bad end, which was just a bunch of Guro scenes after like for a couple hours. I wasn't feeling it, but then I get to the real ending, and it's really good. It's like my second favorite visual novel now. It really surprised me. I didn't think it would be like that good, but
Wow.
it really opened my eyes in several ways. Like maybe girl visual novels have a point. Maybe there's some good stuff there.
It's when we have some of those Guro VN fans, on the show or just when we talk to people ourselves. I routinely hear from stuff like Euphoria or Maggot Baits how, hey guys, the story is actually really good. And I'm always hesitant to believe them because obviously there's all the Guro and other stuff to get through. And I kind of wonder if they're just, overhyping the story. But there's a lot of people who give praise for them. And I guess you're another one of them who would praise the story and like the characterization? Or is it like the plot twists? Or how does the story stand out most for you?
I think it's the characters and the themes it goes with really stand out. I do think it's like hard to sell people on stuff like Maggot Baits and Euphoria because the amount of H scenes and how gross they can get. Even like with Euphoria with me, some of the scenes there really made me uncomfortable, and I don't get uncomfortable often, but there's some gross stuff there. But the stories are still very sincere and very heartfelt in some ways. Like they have very memorable characters and some really cool plot twists too. And Maggot Baits itself also is just very chuny when it's not having a bunch of H scenes.
Mm-hmm,
Do you feel that it's the contrast of the lowest lows that helps those kind of stories achieve the highest highs? Because one of your recent videos was about the Dark Party. That's another difficult to recommend title. And I remember vividly when listening to your retrospective about that title, how interestingly you decipher what was about, how often you talked about the hopelessness in that title, and by the end of it all, how even the mere fact of protagonist gaining faith was interesting. That I remember very vividly from your video. Like,
Yeah, Dark Hero Party is another one where it has a lot of dark topics. Like it's an NTR game, but it ultimately is a very kind of optimistic, heartfelt story by the end. You just have to go through some real difficult scenes to get there, but it serves a point to the overall narrative and themes of the game. Like it's trying to make you feel as powerless as the protagonist, which sucks, but at the same time, it really enhances the storytelling, I think.
You mentioned that you're a fan of those, JRPG, the basic RPG Maker games. How do you find them? Do you usually just go about playing anything you happen to see that catches your eye, or do you hear about some of the, I guess the best of them, then just chase those, or do you have your own way? Because there's so many of them, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. I usually just see stuff I see other people post about on Twitter. And if it looks interesting to me, I look into it in a bit and add it to the list of things I want to play eventually. But yeah, there's a good number of them now.
Oh, the eternal backlog.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Oh my goodness, I think it is for everyone. Mart, you keep your backlog as an Excel file, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I don't help myself by supporting the VNs I like, even without reading them. So, yes, it never, it never ends. Okay, I have titles that I bought on release I haven't touched. And I think you made a video about Tokyo Necro, I believe. Yeah, I bought it immediately. Haven't touched it to this day.
Yeah, that's my backlog. I buy things on Steam and I'll just get around to it someday. Maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I have on Steam that I still haven't touched yet, even though I really want to. I wish I had more time, but having a job makes it difficult to play as much games as I want to, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, you need the job to make money. If only we just had all the money, time, and the energy to just read VNs all day. That would be wonderful.
Only.
The ideal neat life.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
One of your videos in particular interested me. It was the appeal of visual novels, and it was an overview of what makes a VN and kind of its selling points. One of the points you made was the interactivity of it. How it is a story, and it's got the plot beats and the development and all of that, but the player gets to influence it. And that raised a good point between linear versus branching paths visual novels. What are your thoughts between the two? Like, do you think one is better than the other? Do you like linear VNs in particular versus, perhaps even bad endings or multiple routes? What are your thoughts about it?
I think it depends. I mean, there's some really good linear visual novels like Umineko, which don't have any choices, but doesn't really need any. But I think there's some other visual novels that use different routes really interestingly, like DSRI or like Baldur's Sky, where the protagonist gets his memories back differently in each route. So you can see a bit of a different perspective each route until the true ending, which kind of brings everything together. I think stuff like that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. A linear title obviously is more, I guess, focused, more author's intent of how you're supposed to read the story, quote unquote. And I think, that can bring a lot of the strengths that you typically see in the literary forms. But when you have the unique strengths of a visual novel, of it being an electronic form of media, where you can have choices impacting you in wildly different ways, you can have routes, you can have these what-if scenarios, you can have, like Baldur's Sky, of amnesia coming back at certain times, you can have Fate Stay Night, where the main character acts differently in different routes and it builds upon his character even though he's very different. There are so many options that the developers can take when you have these multiple choices. Like, I've noticed, some of the favorites that you like. Maggot Baits has multiple choices, right?
And there's like 3 choices in the game. There's 2 different main endings, 1 bad ending.
Okay, there's some variety there. Daisire has choices, Fate Stay Night as well. And, I think you have the greater heights when you have, multiple branching story paths.
Yeah, it's true. I like the kind of freedom that like the writers can do with multiple different perspectives and like storylines you can do. I think it's interesting.
I guess related to MR, what are your thoughts about gameplay in visual novels?
I feel like if there's too much gameplay, it's not really a visual novel. Like I don't really consider Rance games visual novels because most of the time you're engaging with the gameplay and focusing on like leveling up and fighting enemies and not really reading text, and it's not very novel-like, I mean, the only thing that's really VN-like about them are the H scenes.
Well, I mean, when you say it like that, it makes sense. You're right, especially since it is so ingrained in the world. all the gamey aspects, the concept of levels and level caps, proficiencies, all that gamey elements are part of the world, and you spend a lot of time engaging in it. And in every single title, the gameplay element is different. And I remember vividly one of your videos, you mentioned how this could be even explained on a meta level when you analyze the gameplay, saying, yeah, even runs would approve of this approach because repeating the same gameplay over and over gets boring. So he would obviously change the gameplay all the time. I'm like, wait, that's genius. That's true.
Yeah, I think the Rance games are mostly like RPGs. They take a lot of inspiration from like Dragon Quest, and I think the way you use like meta elements like that is really unique and cool. I think it gives you a good perspective on Rance. Like he gets bored by doing the same thing,
Cool.
so he goes on different adventures. And of course, with different adventures, there's different gameplay styles. Like Sengoku Rance is a strategy game, and then the next game, Rance Quest, is like a normal mission-based game.
So, and in saying that, and the whole visual novel versus game aspect, do you think you prefer the Rance series as a game or as a visual novel? Do you like it more for being a VN or being a game?
I mean, I do love the storytelling in Rance, but the gameplay is usually the highlight. I mean, at least with like Sengoku Rance. That one has really good gameplay, and I think some of the others are pretty fun to play. I think the story in there is equally important to enjoying it, and like Rance as a character and all the side characters really make that series what it is.
Because yeah, Amor, I'm not sure if I've asked you this before actually, but do you like the whole Rant series more for the VN side or for the gameplay side?
Ooh. No, you can't do it like that. I can't choose. I can't choose one over the other. I think still when it comes to runs, I tend to love it more for the world. So I would tend to say the story rather than gameplay. But the gameplay is so solid, like Ronin mentioned. Sengoku Runs is so satisfying when you manage to become the overseer correctly and you save all the characters, etc. The gameplay is satisfying, especially since in that title specifically, the game is not waiting for you. And that's a very unique aspect to how it's tied to the story. Gameplay runs on a clock. You have a limited amount of time before things happen, whether or not you will participate. The game won't wait. And that is a feeling of urgency a lot of games fail to deliver, be it VNs or otherwise. A lot of games give you too much freedom to explore. And Ram says, yeah, have 7 turns, go. And things will be bad. So the way they tie in gameplay with the story is something that is inseparable. Now, ultimately, I will veer on the side of story. And on that topic, I would like to ask Ronin, because we talked about multiple routes, choices, and endings. How do you feel about true ends? Because runs showcases something new, something that doesn't happen in other VNs. The true end is the one you reach first, not last. How do you like that approach? Explore it.
I think true ends can be really good and satisfying when they're done right. Most of the time, they are pretty good. Like, not sure what you mean about the Rance having a true ending first. Is that about Rance Quest?
I mean, not only, because Sengoku Rance, for example, is a title that has multiple endings, and it forces you to experience the true route first. After which, you can divulge into the what-ifs routes that aren't, I wouldn't say, they aren't, it's not necessarily that they aren't canon, but they don't contribute to the continuity to the same way that true end does. And this is not necessarily how the typical VNs approach, right? Because the typical VNs tend to create multiple endings that end having an unlockable true ending to tie it all together and finish with a bang. When Rans proposes, wait. Since we are part of the series, there's 10 entries, we need to have one ending dedicated to the continuity, and that's the one you'll experience first. And the rest are what-if scenarios, if something or other didn't pan exactly as it was in the true end. This is an inversion of how true ends are presented from the norm.
Oh yeah, I've replayed Sengoku Ranch so many times. I kind of forgot that initially in the first playthrough you have to go through the canon route, and then after that
true.
you get access to the actual heroine routes. But yeah, I think it's interesting that the heroine routes, the what ifs, are actually also kind of canon in later games.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, Renstein does that too, where you have to go through the true route first, and then you
Yes.
can do the heroine routes.
Exactly.
And what do you think about it? Do you like it that way, or do you prefer that they would have let you do the true route last?
I think it's a unique way of doing it. I don't mind having to wait to do the heroine routes. I mean, it does give you like the most cool and satisfying sequence first.
In my case, though, just in general, I've never really been a fan of routes after the true ending. Because to me, the true ending feels like it's finished. Like, that's the highest climax we'll get with the story, where everything's resolved, mostly. And so when you go back and you do like a heroine route, or you do the bonus epilogues, it's like, oh, well, okay, this doesn't really feel like the story anymore. This feels just like bonus content, which is nice and all, but I'm not nearly as engaged with it as I was reading the story, knowing that there's a true ending coming up, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what Rance does though is the heroine routes in that, like Sengoku Rance and 9, are kind of important in a way to like the future of the series, and you have to wonder like what elements from them will be used again in the late next games. So it's not just like what ifs and like pointless bonus scenarios. They are kind of important.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand
But see,
towers that you don't have the perspective of how that could be done in a satisfying manner, that the true end isn't like a fight with a god and then you go back to farming village. Okay. I understand.
I mean, if you have those heroine routes with the important info, it's like I would have liked to see them first. Then I would have liked to see them, as the build up, as the first route or as multiple route, whatever, and then you get the true route last. Maybe I'm just too traditional about it. I need my normal VN layouts.
maybe, controversial opinion, maybe, you should try it. Play rounds and you'll know.
Okay, I'll jump straight into, what was it? Rance Quest? There we go.
7.
Yeah, play Rance.
I'll play just that one, and I won't do any of the prequels, and I won't do any of the sequels. Just so I can give you my opinion of the route structure.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. So let me see. Ronin, when did you get into the Rant series? Did you just do it like from the very first one to all the way through, or did you jump in partially, or how'd you handle it?
No, the first one I actually played was Sengoku Rance. It was the 7th game in the series. It was like right after it officially came out from Manga Gamer. I saw a friend playing on Twitter, and I thought, oh, looks kind of interesting. I'll try it. And I played it, and I sunk a lot of hours into it, and really liked it. And then, yeah, I kind of checked out some of the other games after that. But unfortunately, at the time, like 01 and 02 weren't in English at the time. I think like the only other games that were English were like 5D and 6. And of course, like the old games had the fan translations, but yeah, actually, so I kind of went backwards in the series, where I played the 7th game first, then I went back to play Rance 6 and Rance 5D, and then I kind of went and played the classic games.
Oh my god! But it's so funny. But because I did exactly the same. I also started with the number 7. That was the most popular one, and went backwards. Although when I started it, I did the unofficial translation at that point, and nothing else was translated. So I was like, I guess I'll stop for now.
For now. You never stop in general.
Yeah.
Okay, this might have to be our last topic question for the day, Ronin. What is your favorite kind of heroine personality? We're talking like dere dere, or tsundere, or like kudere.
Oh, I love the kuderes, like Rei and Ame, or like Alice from Mahio. Yeah, those emotional scrolls are really very cool to me.
All right, you've got a friend in MR.
Good. Oh.
He's been getting beat up by the lack of kudere appreciators lately, so I'm sure he is jubilantly celebrating behind his microphone right now.
Yeah, exactly. I've been surrounded by too many non-believers. Finally, a true believer.
MR gets it.
Yeah, I see, and Ronin gets it. Yeah,
And you know
Towers,
what?
it's you.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I'm actually no. I'm actually in the middle of reading Witch on the Holy Night, and I can give you a thumbs up for Alice. She's a great character. Super interested to see where the story goes with her.
Glad to hear that. Yeah, she was really good in that game. She is my favorite part of the game. She's great.
Ooh, okay. Well, you've got high praise for it. I'll be looking forward to it. So on that note, thank you so much for dropping by, Board Ronin. And thank you, of course, to all our listeners for listening in. I hope you all enjoyed.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was an honor to be on the podcast.
It was a pleasure speaking with you. Finally, the man behind the mask, the one who's Ronin, sometimes bored, but hopefully not. Thank you very much. And for all our listeners, please check him out. He's amazing. I really love his videos. And with that being said, VNture out.
VNture out.
VNture out.